stars tonight. Fields grow anew with the spring of life. In this sheath of truth will I wrap myself tight. The landscape, it goes for miles. The myths of old, they breathe in me life. Strength comes to the...
We can move forward with a question from Educas, and he's asking, what are the most powerful spells on the psyche of mankind? What are the most potent issues and also the changes we could make? Well, there's no end to them, is there? The very need that people have to ask other people for their answers, which means that our parents teach us to be addicted to teachers, to priests, to peers. That means that we have shut down our own natural intelligence that poses questions, right? The reason can ask questions, well, it can also provide the answers. But we become hyper addicted to the higher experts that are up there who know it all. And so it takes quite a while for us to get back in tune with who we are. You know, there's the spell upon us, making us feel systemically, intellectually, bioenergetically powerless. So our whole life then becomes based on disempowering others, pushing them down to get ahead. We are also in a state of entrainment for all the subliminal programming, which is definitely, a lot of it's based on erotic manipulation. And that's because, as Wilhelm Reich said, we're so we're latecomers to our own sexuality, to our own bioenergy, which should be already between 12 and 14, something that, you know, sexuality should be central to a child's life, but isn't. It's postponed, often into the mid and even late 20s in most people, and then that leaves you to be so massively sexually repressed, so armored is the term that Reich used, that then you're absolutely a puppet on a string. You're just made out of, you know, puff pastry. You're ready to be manipulated very, very easily by the first kinds of pornographic and erotic lures that the media throws at you, you see, so, which is a huge part of the entrainment. And it just goes on from there. I mean, my work deals with almost, you know, as many of these spells, as you call them, that I can get to. So I would say, take a look at the program, you know, subversive symbolism, subversive use of sacred symbolism in the media. I would definitely go over to the Michael Tsarion website and read the article Symbolic Literacy, which is a key archetypal article that basically launched a lot of these wonderful videos that you're seeing now from people analyzing corporate logos and symbols. You know, back about 14 years ago, I wrote that and produced other works to help people realize. Another one that I would say is the false ideas that we have about masculinity and femininity. I mean, that's right up the wall, that is. You know, but we have these models, these extreme models of what is masculine and what is feminine, none of which have any validity at all. And we're not about to be going to find out the real model, because where's that? How do we even do that? And even if we were managed to come upon it, what are we going to do about it? How are you going to install that? You know, it's like we're talking about truth and honesty, lies and honesty earlier on. Even if you want to be a moral person, how are you actually going to do that in a world that's wall-to-wall lies? So it's very difficult. So what you do is you start small. You first start with the changes within yourself, and then you move out there to receptive people, but you never browbeat people. You never interrogate them. You never force it down their throats. If and when they come to you, you know, you can maybe converse about some of these things. I mean, in my own personal life, I don't even engage even at that point. You know, just simply won't. One is just I'm simply too busy, but I'm not characterologically like that. I don't want to engage people into what I'm into. I've found that it's hugely unsuccessful. It doesn't work. I learned that when I was 20. You know, after about 2-3 years of trying that, I quickly learned, I'm a slow learner actually, but I quickly learned when I learn something, I quickly act on it, is what I mean to say. So when I learned that talking to what I thought at the time was very open-minded people, or gave a lot of time and energy to them to help them get to grips with a lot of these issues, I found that it was 100% unsuccessful. So I stopped it. And now I moved things to the public stage, because then you're dealing not with just some local yokels around your backyard, you're dealing with the world, and that tends to be a little bit more optimistic and successful. So if you're a person who then wants to go on and do something, then I suggest keep stum at the home base type of situation, and then go create a blog or a film or a podcast or something like that to get it out to a larger audience, which will make you feel a whole lot better, because you'll reach a wider audience, and there are people out there who will like to read what you've written or all of that, but trying to do it in the local area is pretty much absolutely futile as far as I'm concerned, and can also drive a person to distraction if they keep on trying to do it. Now Udo has a question: are giants a relevant topic for understanding history? The answer is yes. I dealt with that in the Atlantis book quite extensively. There were giants. It's been proven beyond a doubt. And that giantism was either something that was part of a genetic program, manipulation, a transgenic experimentation, or it could have been the result of fallout from an atomic war that happened in ancient times, evidence of which has been suppressed, okay? So there's different ways. In the Atlantis book I go into it in different ways. Vampirism, the discoloration of the skin, light sensitivity, descriptions of gods being patchy, descriptions of gods having, 3 eyes, all of this crazy stuff, sirens, minotaurs, unicorns. Just think of it, And believe me, they're suppressing this today. In the back wards of psychiatric hospitals, they've got some queer stuff, with webbed hands and feet, fur growing over people, scaly skin, hairy growths, horns growing out of people's heads. All of this has been well and truly covered up in our society today. They stay very quiet about this. But these phenomena actually exist more than you can ever imagine. It's a freak show. But speaking specifically of the past, you see, this giantism, which can't be covered up. If somebody's 12 foot tall, well, you're not going to be able to cover that up. So somehow it's been phased out. But I believe it did exist in the past, and it either existed because there was genetic interference to build people of that stature, consciously, deliberately, or it was an after effect. And some of the other aberrations that you read about, even clairvoyant visions, when they're talking about special skills that some of the heroes have. This is very much the case in Irish mythology. A lot of the heroes have special skills, clairvoyant skills. But that could happen because of glandular and hormonal changes brought upon by atomic fallout. But even when it comes to the monstrosities, right, like the Medusa and that kind of thing, could that not be, and the fact that these beings often lived in caves, like they were light sensitive. Yeah, but that's exactly what animals and even humans would do in a case of fallout, nuclear fallout, you see. So there's a lot of questions there, a lot of fascinating questions. Now Keith, you're asking a question, scale of 1 to 10, just how fucked up is everything? Well, I'd say it's 10 or 11 actually. But you see, I'm not pessimistic about that, because it is only when things get that bad, right, that human beings get off their asses to do something about it, as opposed to hunting for their surfboard and their remote control. In individual life, it is only when the pain factor is quite severe, a death in the family, some other loss, causes one to become philosophical, and even then it doesn't. Even then it's only in rare cases today, you see. But at least, like Schopenhauer knew, without pain life is meaningless. So, but as I'm saying, even with pain, often people still don't ask the philosophical questions, but it is then only when there is real pain that something happens to a person. There's no question about that. And that's why you've got to watch out for these New Age charlatans who are always talking about how you're going to anesthetize that pain or that hurt. How you're going to learn how to have this frozen Cheshire cat smile on your face, walking around in the sun in California or something like that. how you're going to sedate yourself through mantras, gurus, incense waving, I don't know what, collectivism, getting together, having barbecues, I don't know what. Our world is obsessed with that now. That's what it calls enlightenment. Actually, it's just editing. The kind of enlightenment that's been handed to us through these fake Buddhisms and all other isms is a form of editing. It's nothing to do with spirituality. Many of these masters, gurus, teachers are always trying to debase human misery. Well, all they end up doing is creating a neurotic form of misery to replace what Freud called legitimate misery. Normal human suffering is how Freud spoke of it. Jung called it legitimate anxiety, legitimate pain. And we tend to follow that because all those pharmaceutical pills out there, right, which is to help you anesthetize this, who's buying them? It's skyrocketing. So they may be producing it, but we're buying it. So right now there's a very big danger that we turn off this pain within ourselves because it's too much, and also because we have a wrong relationship with it. If we entered into a right relationship with it, oh my God, there'd be unbelievable transformation. There'd be unbelievable transformation. But we're no longer living in cultures that know how to deal with legitimate anxiety. Now I made this the center, in case you're new to my work, I made this the center of a talk that I did in Australia called The Post-Human World. Go over to unslave.com, watch it. We went into this immensely deeply. So it's a long presentation, but I encourage you to watch the whole thing because it goes into this whole question. There's also an article called Weapons of Mass Destruction Found on the Michael Tsarion website. Read that as well. That goes into it quite deeply as well.